Having what?
I have 9 third lines in my chart. So every activation in your chart is not only a gate, right, but every gate also has a line. And for those who haven't studied the how it works, essentially, like if you're coming from an astrology background, you know that we divide the ecliptic into 12 signs. Well, in human design, we divide the ecliptic into 64 hexagrams. So we have 64 equidistant divisions of the year of the hexagrams. And that's actually something that's a good way to learn human design. If you have an astrology background, you could look at the hexagrams of Capricorn, for instance, which includes 54, the gate of ambition. Well, we know Capricorns are ambitious. It includes 38, the fighter, which struggles for purpose. Well, we know that Capricorns will fight long, arduous battles for what they believe in. 60, gate of limitation, and so on. You can kind of start to see, Capricorns know how to handle limitation. Gate 10, which is all about being well behaved, actually it's very multivalent, it has many meanings, but one of the things that Capricorns are known for is their behavioral code, we could say.
Oh, interesting.
That they're very, if you have kids who have a gate 10,
my son has.
they're the most well-behaved children, and then a kid that doesn't.
In public.
Sure, unless we have a third line.
He's also Gemini rising.
And I have to say, unless they're gate 10, line 3, because the division is also about, and here I can turn this a little bit to get, because you're off screen. So if we're gonna, I like people to be on screen. Let's see if we can get, there we go. That's even better, yeah. So gate 10 is all about behavior, but then I was saying you can get even more precise because each gate is divided into 6 lines, the lines of the hexagrams. A gate is a hexagram. And they're also equidistant. So of the 64, it's almost like, have you ever looked at Sabian symbols? Sabian symbols? In astrology, there's kind of an imagistic line, almost like a poem, for every single degree. That's kind of what the lines are like. The lines, there are 384 lines, 64 times 6. The Sabian symbols, there are 360. So, they're not an exact correlation, but it's kind of like that. Or it's kind of like decans, if you look at the decans and the decans in astrology. So, because each gate has 6 subdivisions, when we get into a gate like gate 10, your son doesn't only have gate 10 activated, he has 10 line 1, or 10 line 2, or 10 line 3, or 10 line 4, or 10 line 5, 10 line 6. Now, to go into the lines is really a topic that we should just do a whole day for that, because it's really a fun topic to explore, and that's where we get profile from. But the short of it is each line has its own quality, and the third line is the quality of making mistakes, and the quality of experimenting, and trial and error, and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And so my joke was, if he has line 3 of gate 10, he'll be seeing what he can get away with in terms of behavior, And I have 9 activations of my 26 activations in my human design chart that are all in third lines. So I have kind of a lot of third lines.
Oh, interesting.
And so, it's a lot more than normal. I also have a lot of first lines. I have only 1 second line. I have only 1 fourth line. So you see charts where people have an overabundance of certain lines. Also, something about gate 10, Ivy has gate 10 line 5, which gives her kind of a secondary profile almost. If you study profile, this is just how the world sees you, and this is kind of how you're expected to be in the world, what role you play, so to speak. And her profile is the 2-4. But because she has gate 10 line 5, she also kind of takes on many of the roles of the 5th line as well.
Oh, interesting.
So, do you know your profile? Have you gone
Yeah, 5-1 ego.
Oh, that's right, 5-1. I looked at your chart a couple years ago. I remember 5-1. So I'm a 5-1 as well. Ra was a 5-1 who was the messenger of the system. And so even though Ivy's a 2-4, she has something in common with our 5th line because she has that extra 5th line. And your son, regardless of his profile, he will also take on qualities because he has gate 10. He has a line activated there. 10 is a very important gate. It's the gate that is active during the winter solstice. And But Mike had some good comments on gate 10. I don't know if that'd be too much of a divergence, but I can just say he pointed out because gate 10 is the gate of self-love, which is kind of interesting. Like, what does self-love have to do with being well-behaved? Well, it's a form of self-love to behave well so that you, like in China, it's called treading on the tail of a tiger, and it really signifies knowing how to not step on the tail of tigers. If you really love yourself, you don't step on the tail of the tiger because then it will eat you. And so people who have gate 10 can, yeah. So Mike pointed out that on the darkest day of the year, the sun is in gate 10, which is the gate of self-love. So self-love kind of requires the darkest in the external Maya so that you can see the inner glow of the light of self-love. You can really experience that in this kind of lonely, darkest day, and so on.
It contrasts with gate 15, which is summer solstice and is the love of humanity, the love of everybody.
Right, gate 15, and then gate 15 is also called the gate of extremes, and if you've ever seen Humans of New York or something like that, you'll know that humanity has such an expression of extremes, how extremely different people are. So people born in the summer solstice are really here to embody, but the interesting thing is if you're born on the summer or the winter solstice, you have both 15 and 10. Because they're exactly opposite at times. And in human design, activation occurs not only from the sun, but also the earth, which is always 180 degrees opposite of the sun. So if you look at an astrology chart, you can see your sun sign, like I have a sun in Libra, but you don't see that I have earth in Aries, because I guess they would think it's superfluous to kind of, all Libras have earth in Aries, right? All Aries have earth in Libra. So it's kind of superfluous in the astrology chart. It's not giving you any new information. But in human design, it is giving you new information because you get to see that the exact opposite gate is activated. So that's kind of cool. Like if you are born into the gate of extremes, yes, your sun sign, you're kind of an exemplar of this love of extremes. Our good friend Von Paul is a gate 15 personality sun, mine too. And he goes to all sorts of extremes. People who are on the gate of extremes, they get obsessed temporarily with things, and they just go to such extremes where they just get hooked on something, And if it's the sun, it's a big part of their personality. Now, regardless though, if somebody's born on the winter or the summer solstice, they're going to have both gates 15 and 10 because those are opposite on the wheel. They're what are called polarities. So it's kind of an interesting aside there. So in any case, when you're looking at the lines, it's, there's a commonality between all the lines, and we can kind of get back to the topic here, but I would just say, when I first came to human design, I thought, wow, how will I learn all this? There's 64 different hexagrams, and each one has 6 lines. That's so much. It's like 6 variations of the hexagram. But then I started to look at it the other way around. There's 6 lines, and the continuity is at the line level. So if you learn the 6 lines, you start to see that each one of those has 64 variations, 64 ways of expressing a first line, one for each gate. 64 ways of expressing a second line. So you start to see the commonality of the line it's a much easier thing to understand. What is the first line about? Well, it's about foundations. It's about getting to the bottom of things. What is the second line about? And so on. And we have a couple of videos we've done on it, or if people want to, we can always, this is a very democratic process where if folks want to hear the lines next week, we'll just do the lines next week. We meet every Monday, so we pretty much can just do what people want due to popular demand. So we can always do a whole day on the lines. But today, I'm excited to do manifestors. And we've been doing a whole introductory series on the types because we have some newcomers, and we kind of wanted to just take a step back from some of the more advanced topics. We were getting into some pretty deep areas of substructure, what is called substructure, which is even more precise than the line, and can get into areas like cognition and things like that. And we just had some newcomers, so we thought, let's do foundations. Let's do type. So before we talk about manifestors, I'll just give a little context of what is type. And type basically is about the aura. And the type always comes down to the aura. So when we're talking, you can almost say the type is aura type, is your type of aura. What is your type is also the kind of aura you have. And aura is ultimately this invisible but still physical kind of part of the body. It's not like you have an aura. You are the aura in addition to being the body. Like, it is you. It really is you. And it extends more or less about an outstretched arm length from your outstretched arm. So, I'm not really in Olivia's aura too much. Some people, through aura exercises or different things. I mean, I have a friend who saw Ravi Shankar live, and my friend was in an altered state of consciousness at the time, thanks to psilocybin. And he was able to see Ravi Shankar's aura filling up the room. So I don't want it to be like your aura is limited to only being, 6 feet from your body, but generally speaking, the aura is not in this expanded state. It's kind of just this energetic field that surrounds your body like an egg. And some people see auras, and some people have synesthetic experiences of them, but when we study the aura, we're not really talking about the color of the aura like in Kirlian photography. We're talking more about what kind of aura you have. Because not all humans have the same kind of aura. And this is one of the interesting discoveries of human design, that there are these types. And the types are the manifester, as we're going to talk about today, the projector, the generator, arguably the manifesting generator, although there's debate of whether it's the same as a generator aura, or, it's obviously different in some ways. It's more just like how different does it need to be to really qualify as its own type. I'm not going to get into that debate because to me it doesn't really matter. It's obviously they're different. Manifesting generators are not generators, but they are also very, very similar to generators in some key ways, and their auras are very similar to generators. And then finally, the reflector. So there's basically 4 types. Some people say there's 5 types. It's kind of a matter of opinion. It's kind of like saying, what is an elephant like? It's like, okay, you can describe the elephant, but really, an elephant is like an elephant. If you see one, you know it's an elephant. So, I don't really get into these hair-splitting conversations, but basically, just to go over the auras, the reflector has a sampling aura, so they're here to essentially sample and to kind of take in temporarily and see and test other people's auras. We say that they have a Teflon aura. The projector has a penetrating aura. And in a recent video we did on projectors, we explored what that's like, where they're basically here to lock into someone else's G center, which is their center of identity, love, and direction, and to really deeply recognize and kind of see the other person, or just things as well. But they're here to have this penetrating, locking in, sort of focused aura. The generator and the manifesting generator have absorptive auras. They have very magnetic auras that are drawing everything to them. And so they're really pulling everything in. They're kind of attracting it and sponging it and kind of it's a porous aura, so things go in and out. Like if a generator's thinking about something, you kind of know what they're thinking about. If they're feeling something, they're kind of wearing their emotions on their sleeve. People can kind of tell what the generator is feeling and what they're experiencing. And then you have the manifester, and the manifester has a repelling aura. And that's an aura that pushes people away. Now, it doesn't mean that someone who connects closely to the manifester is going to be repelled. They're going to have gotten comfortable enough or close enough with the manifester that they can have, manifestors can have multi-hour conversations and deep connections and all of this. I think what it means, though, is that if you don't know that person that well, and if you're not plugged into them and you're not connected in that way, or if you haven't spent that time together, I've seen manifestors go to a party and sit down and people just start to leave. I've seen, Ra would joke, it's funny when you have a really attractive manifestor at a party because you have people coming up to them all night long, kind of flirting with them and trying to stay in their aura, and he likes to watch how long they can make it before they're like, okay,
see ya.
yeah, good chat, okay,
Bye-bye.
see you later, and then they go, exactly, right? There's only a certain amount of time that they can really make it, They can try the best that they can, but at a certain time they're going to be pushed away. And there's a reason for this, because of what the manifestor's role is. If we imagine a kind of perfect world the manifester initiates, the projector guides and orchestrates to basically manages through to completion. The generators and manifesting generators do all the work. And the reflector tells you how it's going. And they're your measurement to kind of sample and check in with different people and tell you the health of the team and the health of the committee and the health of the community and the health of all of these different things, because they're here to sample. And it's interesting that manifestors, it fluctuates what percentage. I've heard people argue over what percentage it really is. There's no need to argue. There's actually a book by Adrian Kobler called Rave Statistics, because the rave is kind of a term used in human design to signify the nine-centered being, and also more specifically a new consciousness that's emerging. And it typically also just means kind of human design statistics, like rave psychology, rave statistics. It's used a lot in human design to describe some of the areas of research. And so in the book Rave Statistics by Adrian Kobler, he actually generated hypothetical births every 10 seconds from the late 1700s to the early 2000s, basically, till 2027. From 1781 to 2027. And the reason he did this was so he could see how the percentage changes over time. In some years, there's only 7% manifestors. Some years, there's 14%. Some years, you only have generators the whole year, because Pluto or Neptune or some combination of outer planets are activating the sacral system, and you only have generators and manifesting generators for the entire year. So it fluctuates a lot, and it's really interesting to see how the program, so to speak, needs different types and different quantities at different times.
That's like they're,
Yeah. Like, we need a lot of manifestors now, get them all in there, and like a bunch of manifestors are born, and then, okay, we're good. Let the manifestors not, they've done their work, and we need more projectors, and so on. But generally speaking, we usually say 1% reflectors, 9% manifestors, 20% projectors, and then 70% generators and manifesting generators, pretty equally split. So 70% of the world is a generator or a manifesting generator. That already tells you it's a generator's world. When 7 out of 10 people you meet have a defined sacral system, you're basically in a world of people who are not here to initiate. They're here to work. They're here to kind of be directed and be guided and be orchestrated and be, they don't necessarily know, where to go or what to do. And conventionally, it's been the manifestors who have enlisted the generators and manifesting generators. Since 1781, we've undergone this change. We're actually in what's called the Plutonic interregnum, which is this time of great change since the end of the 1700s. And it's basically the time where the seven-centered being is dying out. The seven-centered being that you'd be familiar with from studying yoga, from studying the 7 primary chakras. We are now nine-centered, and that is what the human design body graph is. And interestingly, you can see there's all these memes online about, are people aging slower now? They're like, this is my dad, he's 22 years old, and he looks like he's 50, And there's all these, on Twitter, there's these threads where people can see all the memes of this was my high school teacher, he's 24, and it's a bald guy with glasses who looks like he's 50, 60. Now we have people 50s and 60s who are so youthful and so young in appearance and even just in spirit and everything else, because what part of that transition was the move from the Saturnian being that had a 28-year lifespan, or essentially reached old age at 28, to a Uranian being that reaches old age at 84. And so it's quite a difference, and scientists have tried to say, oh, it's because of quality of life improvements, and it's because of modern medicine. But that's a little bit, it's an interesting thought experiment. What would happen if we suddenly evolved into a new form as different as the Neanderthal is from Homo sapiens sapiens, right? Now, the Homo sapiens sapiens was the seven-centered being. Now we've evolved to what Ra calls Homo sapiens transitus, which is a transitory nine-centered form, here to kind of make way for the true nine-centered form that was given the name the Rave. And we have a lot of interesting kind of forerunners to that. The rise of autism and the rise of Down syndrome and so on are kind of indications of mutative consciousness that has not yet fully found its footing in the human, and it's like they're almost like too soon. They're like a little bit too early of this new consciousness. We're still so steeped in an older, hyper-competitive consciousness, the killer monkey, the seven-centered being that is really here to compete for limited resources, that the new consciousness emerging hasn't quite found its footing because it's just so new and it hasn't really reached critical mass yet. But anyway, part of that big change has been that the manifester has changed its position, where it was always at the top of the hierarchy. And some people come to human design and have problems with hierarchies, and it's not that we can't cooperate or have flat ontologies where we're all valid and so on. In fact, that is the new consciousness that's coming. It's a sort of a non-competitive receptive consciousness. But the fact of the matter is, there are still hierarchies. And the hierarchies have to do with division of labor, and it's just the efficiency of life. That life itself creates hierarchies. And it's inefficient to take the rare manifester and put them in the role of the generator, working for someone, and take the common generator and say, no.
More than inefficient, it's cruel.
Yeah, it's a cruel and unusual punishment to make the manifester work for generators. It really is. It really is. Thank you for that. And so, there are these hierarchies, and there's no value judgment. There's no morality there. It's simply how things are designed. There's a driver and there's a passenger. We all know how backseat drivers are. So the manifester has always been at the top of the hierarchy since time immemorial, since the seven-centered being emerged out of the five-centered being. And they really are responsible for the initiation of pretty much every major development in human history. I mean, we've had manifestors who were the Egyptian pharaohs, and manifestors who were the business leaders, and manifestors who were essentially at the head or the top of just about every organization throughout most of history. And then in 1781, when we entered into this Plutonic interregnum, this time frame that was kicked off with the discovery of Uranus, and then had the discovery of Neptune and the discovery of Pluto in the 1800s and 1900s. It's sort of a progressive deepening of the human psyche and the interiority and the development of what we call right variable cognition, which is kind of like right brain, receptive, holistic cognition, non-competitive, all of this. It's a very different paradigm. I mean, this is a recent paradigm that really only emerged in the last few hundred years. And so the manifestor role the manifestors are kind of like the great stallions put out to pasture. I mean, it's not that they don't have a role. Ra was a manifestor, and he brought us human design. And there are manifestors who make such an impact in the world, tremendous impact. It's more that in terms of being the heads of the various hierarchies, the projector has replaced the manifestor. And the projector is a new type that didn't exist before the late 1700s. So when Ra was kind of given this information and it was all laid out to him, and he knew at that point that he was a manifestor and how the dynamics of the manifestor work, because the manifestor really is here to initiate. They're here to start new things, and they're here to have an impact on the world and do something for the world that's never been done. They're here to bring about change, to facilitate really tremendous change in the world, to do something completely new. And they're not, and in all of this, and he basically understood. And the projector's here to replace the manifestor. Well, how does the projector work? They're invited. Mm-hmm. And they're not here to initiate. And they have to be recognized and invited. And he thought, these spineless, groveling twerps have to be invited. He's a powerful manifestor. He's an ego manifestor as well. He's like, I would just go out and say, you, pick up that rock, start building that pyramid, you, come here and do this. The manifestor is the boss.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? That's the replacement the program came up with? They replaced this powerful stallion that could just build the world we live in through directing people and telling them what to do, and they've replaced them with the projector who has to be invited. They're kind of, They can't walk through the threshold of the door unless you invite them in. Kind of like, it's interesting that the myth of the vampire became popular around the same time as the projector type emerged. And also that projectors are non-energy types. Projectors and reflectors are non-energy types. And manifestors are energy types because they de facto have a motor connected to the throat. So the generators, manifesting generators, and manifestors are all considered energy types, even though they have a different relationship to the energy. The manifestor isn't here to work day in, day out on a grind. They're here to essentially work in fits and starts and kind of save up their energy and then use it at the right time to be really effective and have the biggest impact. Unlike the generator, who's kind of here to manage and to do the day-to-day maintaining of things. But nevertheless, it was really shocking for Ra when he kind of came to the realization that the projector was here to replace him. He who could, build the world, basically. And it's just really a sign of this new paradigm that's emerged, a paradigm of invitation and so on, because the manifestor was really they were the monarchs of the seven-centered world. And they were the ones who were the most effective because they could catch people off guard by withholding information and doing something no one had done before and having these ingenious creations that would win the battle or that would defeat their opponent for the same limited resources and so on, all of these seven-centered projects. Obviously, they did a lot of amazing things as well in terms of art and architecture and the creation of society and basically building society as we know it. But it is interesting that we are now in a place where essentially the manifestor is no longer needed at the tip of the spear or at the top of the hierarchy for the future world that we're now building, which is the nine-centered world. It's like it's already been built. Now we just have to figure out how we can use it in different ways and so on. So manifestors are here to initiate, and their strategy is to inform. And this is the only strategy that's not mechanical, by which I mean a generator has a sacral system that will respond. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? Let's do it. Do you want to do it? And or weird. No, I don't want to do that. That's the generator system. The manifesting generators may not make sounds because their sacral connects all the way to the throat, but they'll still say no, or they'll still take an action. They'll just get up and walk away, or they'll get up and walk across the room, or they'll lean back, or So the generator has this sort of fundamental mechanism where if you're working with a generator, a manifesting generator, what you're really doing is getting them in touch with this mechanism that they've ignored. They've ignored it because of conditioning, because they've thought it's not polite to make a grunt, or they've thought, I should do this, or I should do that. So you're really getting them in touch with that. Projectors also have a mechanism that you're getting them in touch with, which is the mechanism of recognition and invitation. And they will be invited, and they will be recognized, and these things do happen mechanically. Reflectors have their own mechanism of waiting for a lunar cycle, and that's basically they go through a whole cycle of planetary influences. Well, manifestors, informing is not mechanical, it's practical. There's nothing in them that says, I need to inform. There's nothing in them that says, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. Informing is there for practical purposes because informing reduces resistance for the manifestor. And, manifestors can really suffer. They can suffer from an isolation that the other types will never know. And it's because of their aura. The way Ra describes it is, it's like all these projectors saying, well, I haven't been invited, I feel so uninvited, I'm so bitter about it. Well, just imagine it's impossible to really be invited. You can only really be informed. It's impossible to actually be invited if you're a manifestor. In the sense that I can say, hey, you should come on down, it'll be fun. But it's always really just transmission of information, which you can then use as you see fit, right? It's a little bit of a different mechanism. And at a mechanical level, a manifestor can walk into a cafe, people turn and it's like, why is that person here? Because people get put on edge. And they might not even realize they're getting put on edge. They might just be so in their mind that, oh, this person looks nice, oh, they're smiling, but something about their energy is this manifester could change everything, because the manifester has the power to change, and change can be really stressful, and that change can have a really big impact, and it kind of, so there is this fundamental difficulty of being a manifester at the interpersonal. Now, it doesn't mean that they're doomed in any way. I've known manifestors who are in wonderful long-term relationships with their childhood sweethearts, and they're the happiest people you've ever met. It's not about, Ra himself was married for 25 years, so it's not about creating a story of, oh, the poor manifestor, they're so isolated. It's just that there is an isolating effect of having a repelling aura that only a select few can kind of break through, and it may take other techniques to do that. Two generators can sit on a park bench and feel really close to each other. Manifestors might need intense eye contact for hours or something, to get to that place of having broken through. There's just kind of a wall that has to be broken through with a manifestor. So it's not a doom sentence, it's just pointing out that these are different auras. And manifestors might assume people know how they feel and then be surprised when a family member says, oh, I don't know. They don't know that you love them, even though you tell them you love them. And you're informing them and saying you love them. But they don't know because the energy is so close to the chest, it's not letting it out the same way. Like, you can see a couple generators and like, oh, that one likes that one, and that one's bored from this one, and this one's more interested in this one. And you can just tell all the generators and how they all feel about each other because their cards are just showing to everyone. And so it's just an energetic thing. Okay, I have something I'm going to read from the Manifestor Genoa Livin. Any comments, questions so far?
I
Yeah.
do have a question. Do you think that, I was listening to the lecture that Ra gave on the manifestor, and he was saying a lot of things, the anger and loneliness and people not wanting to be around a manifestor. And I definitely felt that early in my life. Oh, and the other piece was not knowing the self. That manifestors don't really know the self. But as I've aged and gotten more in touch with and done my work internally, then it has shifted a lot of those for me. Like I don't walk around angry like I used to be anymore. And so it's definitely shifted a lot of perspectives within me.
Absolutely. Well, yeah.
So the question is, it's not like a life sentence, it's not like what he's talking about is we're born a manifestor, we're going to experience all of that no matter what.
No, but I think you are going to experience a childhood and an upbringing and a trajectory that includes some of these things.
Yes.
And it's going to be a challenge so as an ego manifestor, you have an undefined solar plexus. The undefined solar plexus never once, as the not self anyway, as its sort of default mode, never wants to hurt anyone's feelings, never wants to rock the boat. It's like, hey, are you going to come visit your friend in the hospital? Well, of course I will, because I'm a good friend. Hey, the parents, are you helping Jimmy with math homework? Of course, And Ross said he had an undefined solar plexus as well. He was also an ego manifestor, split ego manifestor. And he said his mom never actually knew him. She thought he was the golden child. She thought he was the best kid who ever lived. And he was out getting the other kids high or whatever, and she never knew because he had lived up until about age 40, never showing anyone else who he truly was, ever, even for a second. Because he was so good at faking it, so good at telling them exactly what they wanted to hear, so good at hiding because he didn't want to hurt their feelings or whatever it is. It's like, so that's a great example of, if you're a manifestor and you have an undefined solar plexus, it's the easiest thing in the world to spend your whole life avoiding painful truths and making nice.
Until
and
it
covering
doesn't
up.
work anymore.
Until it doesn't work anymore.
Until it's like selling my soul and I can't do it
Right,
anymore.
right. But it's something that is going to be then, once you go to the other side of it, then you suddenly have this immediate thing where you're dating someone and you say, I really have to tell you I'm not feeling it anymore. Instead of just waiting 2 months hoping they break up with you or whatever it is, right? Because the thing is, when you avoid the confrontation and truth, it's going to lead to the anger. And the more you the second you feel any nervousness at all, you just immediately confront, that brings you back to peace. Oh my God, what a nice peace.
Yeah.
I feel so peaceful now. I'm not hiding. Well, it's the same thing with the undefined spleen. But for the undefined spleen, it's all about holding on to what isn't good for you. And when you just finally let go, and I finally got rid of all that stuff, and I quit my job, and I moved, and now I can have peace, So it's kind of, you're absolutely right. It's not a sentence for life, not a life sentence to be that way. But it's also, there's no guarantee, because there are people who are 70 years old and they're manifestors, and they've held on to that safe job with their undefined spleen, and they have avoided confrontation and stayed with the partner for 30 years. You see a lot more of that than the other. So I think here in Santa Fe, we're really lucky that most of the people in Santa Fe who are drawn to a place like Santa Fe are drawn partly to the depth of self-work and healing modalities. And you, of course, have worked in many healing modalities. I know you're a channel and other things. And you can't do channeling work without confronting some of this stuff, right? You can't be a Jungian psychologist and not confront some of this stuff. So there are many, I guess we could call them 9-centered modalities that are all guiding you to the journey of self-discovery. But it's hard work. It is very hard work. And I have an undefined solar plexus. It's not every day, but there are times when I have to confront something that's very painful that I don't want to confront. And it doesn't really get easier, even though I've been doing it for so many years. Yeah. But if I don't do it, I'm going to end up in frustration. So, I think when Ra describes the alienation felt by a manifestor, or what he's describing is more just kind of what it's like being a manifestor in the world, because most of the world is not so awake. And we're really lucky here in Santa Fe because we actually have a lot of awake people. Yeah. They don't have to be in human design to be awake. They could be into sound healing, or they could be into some other thing, but they're at least, you can at least communicate, and you can at least say, hey, look, I can't come to this because I'm just not feeling like it. They'll understand. It's also been a cultural shift where culturally we have been deconditioning collectively from, but you can look at certain cultures. We're very lucky here in the West as well. There are certain cultures that have such strong tradition that to even say that you don't want to get married to the person you're part of the arranged marriage with, you'll get disowned from the entire family. And so you can see the pressure on people to avoid the truth, like with the undefined solar plexus. And of course there are advantages to those cultures as well. I don't mean to make it so one-sided, but there's so much cultural conditioning, and collectively I think all of humanity in the last couple hundred years has gone through this radical transformational process to make it so that people can be more in their correct, basically we could call it alignment. So people are getting more and more aligned to who they are. Because a manifestor isn't here to be controlled by somebody, but with an undefined solar plexus, they can let themselves be controlled if they don't want to hurt their feelings. They can give away their power because they don't want someone to be hurt. Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to hurt you, I'll just go along with it even though I don't really want to. And that leads to the anger.
Yes, I agree.
I have a question also.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So Una is a manifestor.
Yeah.
And so something was brought up, you said that there's challenges in childhood with that kind of foresight. And definitely there's challenging dynamics. And one that I would ask about is how, some perspective on how to handle because they're in authority, right? That's their natural way of being, is to be authoritative. So as a parent, when you are there to guide and lead them in at least some ways, how would you, do you have any experience with what a positive dynamic in that would look like or feel like?
Yeah, they have to ask until they're adults, and then they can inform. So asking is really the child's strategy, and they have to ask for everything, even things they might not think that they have to ask for. So I think enforcing some sort of asking, now it doesn't mean that you're not permissive, but you can be permissive once it's asked. But if there's no asking, then that can cause a lot of problems. And so it is, there's nothing mechanical about it. It is conditioning, and it's basically getting in a good habit. It's a healthy habit. It's a healthy habit for, adult manifestors can inform. They don't really need to ask. They can just say, I'm not doing this, I'm going here, I'm not doing that, I'm going to do this instead, whatever. But as children, it's a very important habit to ask. asking permission. Hey, I'm gonna do this now. Can I listen to this? Can I watch this? Can I turn this on? Can I turn that off? Instead of just getting in the habit of I do what I want,
Yeah.
because that is the instinct of the manifester. And what's funny is Rod joked, you might have heard this in that lecture, he said, the only kids who end up with
Yes,
leashes,
leashes.
yeah, tend to be manifestors. And it's
because
because
they just go.
they'll just do their own thing. And it's not that that's a healthy thing either. I hopefully we don't need that anymore, but that would be an example of when there isn't a. So I think the most important thing is just, you know, you can be as permissive as you want once the asking has happened.
Interesting. That's really
So
beautiful.
the
And
asking
allow
is
them to
something.
feel their power through that.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Yeah, and
Their
say,
issue,
can I go here?
yes.
Yeah.
Can I do
It's
that
like
now?
when I
Can
get
do
annoyed
this?
with her bossiness, I can tell it's like it's not the way to do it.
Mm.
But yeah, by having that clear.
Well, and just saying, if
I'm
you
a
want to do it, you
projector.
can ask.
Mm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so you're here to really guide when you're invited to guide. And that's the other thing is letting yourself off the hook, because so many projectors feel an obligation to guide when they see somebody making mistakes or doing something that they can help with.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of a double, it's like for her, getting in the habit of asking. For you, letting yourself off the hook and not holding yourself to this standard of having to guide when you haven't been invited.
Mhm.
Because you can basically see someone make the same mistake every day for a week or a month until they ask you how to not make that mistake. You're off the hook.
Right.
But a lot of projectors feel on the hook and, oh, I've failed if I'm not making sure they don't make this mistake. It's like, no. Let them make all the mistakes. When they come to you and say, please, can you tell me how to do this? That's when you can step in and go, well, I could have told you last week, but you never asked, you know? And so just giving yourself a lot of permission
Even
to
with
just,
your child.
yeah, exactly. Don't feel like
Oh, interesting.
like they are
Yeah.
reflecting, because I mean everyone's going to make their own mistakes and they're going to have their own experience and exploring, and I mean that goes for everything. I mean projectors are not here to volunteer their help to others. They're
No.
here to basically almost have the idea, be asked or be invited, or even just kind of be, you know, asked a few times, really, like for there to really be a
pulled,
need.
yeah.
Pulled.
Mhm.
Your help is pulled from you.
Yeah.
And so a big part of it is just not giving yourself a hard time over all the kind of homogenized thing of what a good parent looks like, because you know in your heart of hearts you're a good parent because you're an awake parent, and that's the best kind of parent that can be. Is you're seeing what's going on and you're not, you know, you're not jumping in to say no, do this now, do this, don't do it this way, because that's kind of going against the grain for projectors, and that just builds up a sort of resentment from both sides, because then you get resentful that I keep telling you the same thing and it never works.
Very
Well,
great,
it's like wait to be asked. You're kind of just off the hook as long as, I mean, human design parenting is like, as long as you're keeping your child physically safe and emotionally safe, your role is to keep them well fed and have access to education and protected and physically, you've done your job. And then if they're like, you know, making mistakes and can't figure something out, well, they can ask you to help them. And when they do, you will help them.
Mm.
When they don't, you're off the hook. So it's kind of, you know, as long as you're just checking the boxes of physical and emotional safety and things like that, then you're doing your job. There's nothing, you don't have to like make sure that they know not to make that mistake or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Thank
It
you.
really
Yeah.
feels like this is about really understanding and living into our type. Because when we're living our type, then there's not a confusion. Like, I'm not showing up as submissive or, oh, you know, yeah, I'll do that for you. If I'm in my
Yeah.
type, right, then it's not as confusing for other people.
right, because they're kind of expecting you to just do what you want anyway, and when you actually do, it's actually a relief. But if you say, no, I'll bend to your will or something like that, I mean, really,
And there's no
yeah.
peace then.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same. I mean, I was terrified as a generator with an undefined solar plexus to really tell people, But what's interesting is if I actually make the sound and it's legitimate, and I can't plan it ahead. I can't plan it in advance. I can't be like, when they ask me tomorrow if I want to go to this party, I'm going to go. Like, I can't. I just kind of in the moment have the courage to take that step to just make the sound. People accept it. Whereas if you are trying to break up with someone as a generator and you go, it's not you, it's me, and this and that, like, they hate that. I mean, but if they say, do you want to go out with me? And you go, they accept that. And so it's really interesting. People just accept, They don't accept all of the mental rationalizations. So, yeah. And for manifestors, they just accept whatever you're informing them of. I mean, if a manifestor says, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, okay. Like, I'm not suddenly second guessing that. I just accept the fact they have informed me. What annoys me is if, there's a lot of ambiguity and then something happens that I wasn't expecting. I have my classic manifestor story of not informing. I was with kind of a Burning Man group, and we would have these Burning Man-esque parties in Seattle, and they'd be really fun, wild, kind of surrealist parties, and we would do scavenger hunts. And we got to the very last clue, and so this is like a big build-up over like an hour. I mean, the clues are really fun and silly clues, and the last clue was on the co-host's back. But it's one of those things where it's hiding in plain sight. She had a big piece of paper, and so the clue was her, but people are looking around the room, and they're not noticing that she has this big thing that says like, this is the clue or something on her back. Well, right as when we started the very last clue, the manifestor knew that the clue was on her back. So he thought, well, they could find that clue anywhere. And he was a fire dancer and wanting to do his fire performance, and he thought, efficiency-wise, he didn't want us to all finish and then people would like leave because we'd all been doing something for an hour. He wanted to just segue immediately into the fire dancing outside. So he said, attention everybody, get your shoes on and come outside. The clue is outside. Well, this was a problem because she went outside, but it was dark out, and the clue wasn't somewhere outside. And they were still looking inside. And then people were like, we've been looking in here for 10 minutes. Why are we wasting our time? Like the whole thing was messed up. Like, first of all, the clue wasn't outside. It was on her back. Second, it was too dark to even see. Third, people were annoyed. You know what I mean? Like, they were about to find it, maybe like 2 minutes before they found it. He's like, attention, everybody get their shoes on and come outside. He didn't tell us he was going to do that. He didn't tell anyone he was going to do that. Nobody ever found the last clue. They didn't end up, the last clue actually had the prize box where everybody would have got things to, completely, impacted the whole situation and didn't even realize it. And afterwards, we informed him and said, hey, that really impacted. He goes, oh, that's too bad. I thought they would have found it. I mean, it was on your back. I thought you would just go outside and they would find it there. And it's kind of, there was no informing of his plan to make everybody go outside. So that was an example where if he just informed and said, hey, everybody, I want to segue because I don't want people at the party to have a chance to kind of drop off. Let's do the last clue outside or something, he could have coordinated. But there was just a really big impact. And I've also been impacted in very positive ways, so it's not always a negative, but typically the less informing, the more potential for negative impact. Mm-hmm. The classic example is Orson Welles, who is a manifestor. And when I first heard about manifestors, I remember I thought, I bet Orson Welles is a manifestor. And he is. And it's because he became famous when he did War of the Worlds as a radio broadcast. Have you heard about this story at all?
And they thought it was real?
They thought it was real.
Yes,
and people jumped off buildings. People died. A number of people died, yeah. So, this is what happens when there's no informing. He just said, we're getting invaded, aliens are here. And people, took it seriously. And he didn't say, this is a fictional story. So, that's the power. Manifestors have so much power. If a generator had said that, they would have, known he was joking or something, Then the manifestor, they don't have a way of detecting it. So, okay, so I'm going to finish, and then any more conversation is totally welcome. But I'm just going to read a short piece by Genoa Bliven. He's the founder of Human Design America. He lives here in Santa Fe, actually.
Really?
And yeah, he's a 3-5 manifestor, quadrite. And he was a good friend of Ra, personal friend of his.
What was his name?
Genoa Bliven. Do you know how to say it? Okay. No one knows. Genoa Bliven. Genoa. Manifestors naturally do things that are original. Everything else is a hassle. The hassle aspect stems from the fact that energy is a precious commodity for manifestors. They use it up quickly, doing things with great intensity. It is rare for them to be able to receive energy from others. So they need to rest and have a great big break from everything and everyone to be healthy. Manifestors can feel put upon by nearly everything or anything. Interfacing with others is exhausting. Convention is exhausting and exasperating. Repetition is numbing. Everything must be efficient or the energy will run out before it is complete. Nearly every interaction steals their fire and their originality. Yikes. I'm painting a dismal picture, but I thought that you might like to know. The only thing that matters to a manifestor is that one original thing that will come out of them that is a game changer. It will change the world in some small but totally amazing way. Everything else is just maintaining. Boring and depressing. If a manifestor is helping you, it is because they want to totally rock your world and turn it into something totally else, to completely remake your world. If they do this, you may feel that you are dying. It can be almost unbelievably disorienting. Manifestors are strong medicine meant to be taken in small doses. It may be hard to imagine this kind of reality, but your manifestor brothers and sisters live in that place. They only want to strike like lightning and withdraw. When they withdraw, they push off and impact you. They impact by leaving. They are always leaving, even when they are being there for you. Even while talking to you, they are leaving, trying to make their point so they will never have to make it again. At the same time, manifestor children are the most tender beings imaginable, gentle beyond thought or breath. They need protection because they are so alone. There is no connection to anyone for them unless this connection is totally without expectation. Imagine for a moment what this might be like, to live like this. To be a child and to be so alone. They're totally alone except for you. When you are with them, you feel alone too. Alone on the edge of a planet that has virtually no living being upon it. You, like them, become the exception to the rule. It's a freaky feeling, is it not? Like there's no one else. No one. They are a being who is so ancient. Yet nothing they are doing has ever been done before. Even if they're doing what you just did, it has never been done before. They are remaking the world in every second. It is weird and inspiring, but weird nonetheless. You can feel how powerful life is when you are just observing it as though it is happening to someone else. The manifestor child will stand on the edge of the play and the socializing of the others. They do not need to participate to feel totally involved, overwhelmingly involved. The world and social interactions seem huge and powerful. The manifestor child is alienated. They are alien. They are tender and vulnerable and cannot join in, not in the same way as others. They feel so close and alone at the same time. They just need your simple understanding of these simple facts. They came to Earth to change the world. Change is scary. It is stressful. It is stressful for everyone, even manifestors. Especially for manifestors. They are hanging on to their humanity with the tiniest little thread. You can just stand next to them and hold it with them. You need to be so very subtle. Never place an expectation on them of any kind, and you will be their friend for life. Such behavior is so rare. Manifestors get hardened through the expectations of others. No one suffers more because of this hardening than manifestors themselves. Manifestors are naturally tender. Let's do what we can to keep them that way. Ironically, it is through doing nothing that they will feel closest to you. They can feel close to you from a vast distance, even when they are standing right next to you. This vast distance is so important to give them because through it, they will be close. So close you can hardly believe it is possible. Closer than your own breath, your own thoughts. This is the secret of manifestors. You give them space, lots of it, and they will come close to you and love you forever.
Wow.
Thank you, Genoa. Genoa had some good stuff. All right, well, thanks all for coming. Any last comments, thoughts? Any?
That was so spot on for us.
No
Parenting
expectations.
For the past 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Olivia knows.
Lots of space and no expectations. That's a good way to be.
Yeah, really
Yeah,
good point.
absolutely.
So I'm a generator, and I have a couple of really close friends who are manifestors. And when I hear this thing about initiation, it's like, I'm such a free spirit, I'm an entrepreneur. I'd like to understand that better in relationship to what I'm hearing about generators.
Yeah, so every type who's not a manifestor is trying to be a manifestor because the manifestor has the energy flowing through the throat, which is the metamorphic center. And so generators, their whole problem is that they're stuck. They're stuck in their job, they're stuck in the current way of things are being, and they're trying so hard to change it. and that's trying to be the manifestor, trying to initiate something new. It's like this long plateau of stuckness. And what human design is trying to get the generators to do is to stop trying to change it and start living it instead of imagining how different it'll be once they start the new thing. So there's a huge
aligned to the
deconditioning.
vibration of the thing.
It's like really allowing yourself, so when you follow your sacral authority, you will have the energy to persevere through nearly endless stuckness. It's like it's okay to be stuck when you're following your sacral authority because you're stuck doing the thing you love. But the generators who aren't following that, they're doing, they have an idea like, I'm going to start this thing, I'm going to start this business because that's going to be what I really want. I mean, it's tough. I mean, for me, I want to be doing human design all the time. I can't because I'm not in a place where I can do that. But I also can't initiate it because every time I try, it fails. What I have to do as a generator is prepare myself through responding and all of these micro responses. Like, a good example is my friend Brian. He didn't know he wanted to do any video production or editing or anything, but he just responded to it. Like, hey, do you want to do the video recording for the Human Design Conference? Sure, and he's emotional, so he waited for clarity on it. He did it. Then he heard about a video editing class. He responded to that. He started doing video editing. Well, 3 different people asked him to do video editing now. It's this completely organic process. But if you ask him what he wants to do, he would tell you his business plan. And it's probably nothing to do with video editing. So business plans are the world of manifestors. And coming up with this idea of, I'm going to start this thing. I mean, basically, the tough truth is that everyone's trying to be a manifestor because the throat is sort of how everything gets out. And all the energy that builds up is trying to reach the throat. It's trying to tend to it. And the only way it can do it is when it naturally, organically happens through being in your aura. So if you have something that you're really prepared for and you're ready to do that business, you will just organically meet people who will ask you, do you want to do that? And probably a manifestor will come along and will start something and then say, but you know what I need is someone to run this thing. But we all are trying to be manifestors. And when we do, we end up just cluttering up the world with, did you know that 90% of published books end up in a landfill unread? That's the generators. 90% of printed materials end up in a landfill unread. How many trees is that? That's a real statistic. Manifestors don't publish books that end up in landfills. They publish books that get read because they know the time and the place and they know how to impact and launch it and they know how to announce it. But all the generators are just saying, me too, I want to have my book there too, or I want to have my company, I want to have my business. Yeah.
But does that mean that there isn't a creative spark within the generator, or that they only fulfill that through
I would say that the generator is the fertile life force. There's so much creativity. There's creative manifestor channels, there's creative generator channels. There's a whole series of channels that are creative. But I think what it means is like how much difficulty the generator is going to have in launching and really changing their material circumstances, because they want to change everything in a flash, but it can only be changed step by step by step. And it's only changed if each step comes out of response. So I've struggled with this too, because for years now, 5 years ago, I created a open source human design programming toolkit. I didn't initiate it. It was something that I needed because there was a real need that came up and I had a weekend. And so I just built it. So we're here to build. We're definitely here to build. But that was 5 years ago. I can't affect the timing of when that's going to be adopted or used. I can't get people to use it. I can't get anyone, literally someone has to email me. I get emails sometimes and they're like, how do I use this thing? And I'm like, okay, I can help you with that. But it's kind of like, if we build it, they will come. It's very different than for the manifestor, where Ra was like, I need to announce human design to the world. For me to announce it to the world, I have to structure it in a way that it can be understood by the world. And he basically did what every generator wants to do, which is get out there and announce their business and then have the change. It's like one day you're doing this and the next day you have 1 million clients and it's all working and everything's, it's not even easy for manifestors either. Manifestors it's not easy for anyone, but I'll just say that the manifestor, the correct way for them to do it is to use their tremendous skill of knowing how to launch things, to successfully change things and say, okay, on this day, I'm starting this. Before I did that, now I do this now. That was my old life, that's gone. This is my new life, it's here. Generator can't really get rid of the old life that way. Generators are like, I mean, it sucks, but like this is like what like every generator I talk to is like, how do I launch my business? And the answer is you don't. You do not. You cannot launch anything. Like you can only respond. So what you can do though is you can get really, really good and you can build. You can build it. You can write a book. You can write and create all of the class materials to teach somebody something. But when you start putting up the flyers to get the students and so on, it's not really going to work that well unless you've been, you know, it's like you can build it. Like, okay, here's a good example. I do the High Desert Human Design Conference. I build it. I build the conference every year. It's like Burning Man or something, you know, like I build the schedule. I build the things for people to come. I can't control or even initiate the announcement of it to get people, like if I went about it the other way, the manifestor way, I would say, okay, here's what we're doing from this day to this date, here's the money, here's the thing, here's this, here's that, and it would just be done. I work with a manifestor who does that. I went to his event, it was amazing. He just announced, he said, okay, we're doing the event, here's the price, here's where it is, here's the dates, here's who's doing it. It just happened. He didn't have to build it step by step at all. He built it all in one go, in one whirlwind of fury, and he just built it fully formed and birthed it into the world as a fully formed thing, and it was a huge success, and it worked perfectly, and it just, you know, he crushed it. That's not the generator way of doing it. Like, we are here, like, day in, day out. Like, every day I'm like, oh, this might be a fun thing to put in the conference. Let me build this and see if anybody wants to use it. Like, here's a great example. Like, I got a laminator. I don't know if anyone's going to want laminated things, but we have that. I have built the ability to laminate your human design chart. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, at the conference, if people use it. Last year we had it too. Nobody used it. So, I mean, you know, but it's there if they want it. That's what we can do. We can build it if they want it. We just can't make them want it. But you have a comment?
The stations.
Stations.
Yeah, I love the word incubator. You hear that in tech, you hear that in biology. Generator is double yin. It is the ground that everything grows from. You know what I mean? It is the incubator.
Yeah, we can incubate our business. But,
Pure
yeah.
yin. Manifestor, pure yang, right? What were you going to say, John?
Well, we incubate our business, but the way we do it, like, I went to Techstars, which is a startup incubator, and most of the people there are generators, and they all came in saying, here's what our business is. And the first day you're there, they tell you you're in here in spite of your idea, not because of it. And what you're going to do is what's called customer development. You're going to do 10 interviews per week with potential customers where you tell them nothing about your business. You simply write down what they say, and then out of that, if they don't mention the problem you're trying to solve, you need to change what your business is and try to think of a new value proposition because they don't care. So every generator comes in going, I'm going to solve the world's problems. I'm going to launch this business. And what Techstars was training us to do, not even knowing human design, was basically training us to be responsive and to respond to what comes along, because we might have thought our business is doing ABC, but it's really going to end up doing X, Y, Z. Because our thoughts and our ideas of what we're going to do as generators are really our own worst enemy. Now, a manifestor, it's different. They actually can do what we all wish we could, which is build the curriculum top down. It's like hierarchy. It's like for people who do development, product design. The manifestor is very waterfall. It's not an iterative process. It's not like you do 800 iterations of something to figure it out. You do it once and it's perfect, and that's what it is. And the reason it's perfect and the reason it's done right is because they knew the right time to do it. They didn't do it last year, they didn't do it next year. They knew how to launch it, they knew how to message it, they knew how to communicate it. They knew exactly who they needed and what leverage points and who was needed at what point. And they just pulled it off perfectly, and that's something we'll never be able to do. So what we have to do instead is, so many generators are waiting to start their business because they have a fantasy of initiating. What we need to do is make incremental progress every single day by basically grinding on something that is satisfying to us. If it's like truly satisfying. Like if you're not satisfied making ads or putting out ads, don't make ads. Like if you're not satisfied, you know what I mean? Like a manifestor can make ads because they know exactly how to advertise. Yeah.
So would it make sense though to have like a manifestor business partner?
Absolutely. If you can get a manifestor to work with you, I mean, a manifestor and like 4 generators is a classic. So now it's the projector and 4 generators, but it used to be manifestor and 4 generators. There
So
are a lot
projectors
of
would be good too.
projectors are great. Yeah, projectors are wonderful at orchestrating and guiding the work of generators. That's kind of one of the things they're here to do. But you see a lot of classic companies. Spotify, I believe it is, has a manifestor CEO, and then the rest of the C-suite are all generators. And it's like the CEO is in charge of saying what they're doing, and everyone else makes it happen. And that is great because then the generator has a job to do, and the job has clearly defined parameters, and they're satisfied when they finish the job, and you know what I mean? It's kind of, it's like we're not here. Generators aren't here to initiate, but we are here to work. And so if we're doing the right work, it'll be satisfying to us, and we'll be satisfied every single day, instead of waiting in frustration for a future point when we'll no longer be frustrated because we will have launched the business. So that's what generators get stuck in. They get stuck in this fantasy that someday I won't be frustrated because I'll be a manifestor and I'll be able to initiate and start it all. And it's like, then it'll all just flow. And instead it's like I've struggled with this too, because I've tried to launch various things like High Desert Human Design. I have to ultimately continually remind myself on a daily basis that every step I make has to be for me, something that I enjoy, so that my enjoyment is put into it. So I can't think, am I going to get my money back on making these, magazines? Because we make a magazine every year. It's kind of a schedule, a guidebook. I just have to think, I love this guidebook. I want this guidebook for my own collection. I'm going to build it. I'm going to print up 100 of them. If others want the guidebook, they can buy them for $40 or whatever. But I'm basically building it for me first, building the thing that I would use, building the thing that I love. And then if other people, it's very Field of Dreams. For manifestors, it's not Field of Dreams. For manifestors, it's there's a vision, and the vision has to be realized. And the vision is, let's build the Pyramid of Giza, And the Pyramid of Giza wouldn't be built. Yeah.
That's where I'm having trouble at this point in my life as a manifestor. Feels like all of the other types have the what built into the how. In the sense of like, it's something that exists out there in the world already, and you're responding to it, or being invited to it, or going through your cycles, and like, I just want to do so much, and now I'm doing tattoos, tarot readings, trying to go to school to be a psychologist, working at 3 different galleries, like. Just like running a rave and event space and I'm like, it's just like so, and like no.
Well, you need generators because the manifestor starts it and then
hands it off
and hand it off. Start it and hand it off and keep making the money on it.
But the funny thing is, like, most of these things that I want to do are very solo, very like individual tasks, and so it's like. That's
Well, yeah, and it's true that Ra did all of his own artwork and design, and he also made music and put out CDs. I mean, as a manifestor, you can do a lot. It's not that you can't. I think it's just
It's about the timing of
make
it.
sure. I mean, also you have an undefined ego, right? And an undefined ego will often work for free,
Yeah.
and so that's part of the deconditioning. Is I know, but the
I'm like,
more
no,
you're able.
an invoice?
But the more you're able to sort of overcome your natural aversion to getting paid, the more you can. Sorry, but that's the more resources you'll have to then be very selective with your use of energy and not have to do anything repetitive. So I mean, it's one thing to say you're running an event space. It's another thing to like clean the event space. Like you don't need to clean it. You can get other people to do that. Good. Okay. Well, that's very
Get the
important.
checklist out.
Yeah, you can make the checklist.
And
Give them the
I
checklist.
guess maybe that's but also what's interesting about a lot of these tasks that seem very like individual, like taking place on, like I'm the one only doing it, but that it's a thing, but it's a different, like giving a tattoo is a different thing every time. With different people, you're doing the same thing, but it's like.
Well, you have a creative manifestor channel as well. 1222 is one of the creative channels. So I mean, part of it is you have this need to be creative, and yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't think. I mean, it's also just it's undefined sacral and knowing how much energy you have and when you're spread too thin, and then being able to let go of the things that are less important for you or less impactful in the world. I mean, it is kind of a question. I mean, every type is going to have its issues, and so the generator is going to have nearly endless energy to crank away on things, and manifestors can be jealous of. They're actually jealous of us. It's funny that we're so jealous of them because we just want to launch our business. They're so jealous of us because they're like, you can just work day in, day out. Like we're the grinders, we're just here to grind every day. But what's funny is so many generators aren't grinding. In fact, the moment that they start actually making progress towards their goal, or the moment that they start actually building something, they're so satisfied that they built it. But the planning is not building. The planning for a future vision is kind of like, when it's launched. Like I've come up with this. Like I've come up against this because I have projects that I'm working on, and they are marathons, not sprints. I can't sprint my way to building something. I have to make incremental progress every day, and I have to build it in such a way that it's satisfying to me. Like, oh, I built a login page. Like, it's a website. Like, I can't just create the whole vision for the website. I have to actually enjoy building each little piece of it. We're the builders. Yeah.
Kind of deep, but like something I'm working through in my own inner life is that my childhood was, in my opinion, pretty traumatic, and I think I dissociated from really being there. And so part of that is like I feel like I don't even know what I really enjoy. And so as a generator, I want to be in joy, and there are things that I feel that I know that I like, but I also feel like there might be a bigger bridge there to really be in that joy. So
It's
can
so
you
true.
speak to that?
It absolutely is. I mean, when we're traumatized, we kind of get cut off, like you said, cut off from presence, or we get cut off from the joy. And generators are here to be satisfied, and really, every time you do something that you sacrally respond to, it ultimately is satisfying, even if it's something that doesn't it seems insignificant from the mind trying to be the manifester. Like, this is a big distraction. I'm trying to get from point A to point Z, and now I have to, I have to do all this other stuff in between, and it seems like a big distraction. But ultimately, the real question is, are we going or to it?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we're going along trying to get to this one point we see, and the sidetrack comes along, but we actually respond to it, and we're surprised. We're surprised to respond to it because we think we need to be working on this or that. We think that it's going to take us further away from our goal. But ultimately, it's really about, for the generator, if you really want to do it, you'll know by trusting that sacral sound, or if you're a manifesting generator, you'll know by just observing yourself. Like, manifesting generators will sometimes notice that they're like getting packed, even though they didn't realize they're going on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like trying to get ready and make sure they have a passport. They're like, wait, why don't I go on a trip? I guess I do. Jeez, But like, they're responding to it. They're already. Someone just mentions, hey, there's a trip coming up. Will you do this? And they're like, I don't know. I'll get back to you. And then they're like, well, my passport's here, and I guess I have. Like, they're kind of like noticing themselves get everything ready, and then they're like, I guess I want to go. They just noticed themselves do it. So I mean, that's really the experiment. The experiment for generators is getting to discover what you respond to. And if you're not a manifesting generator, then that means you can only make sounds, and that can be even easier to tell, because you'll probably make sound if you don't want to do it, or whatever. And you can do what are called sacral sessions, where you have a friend ask you, do you like chocolate? Do you like broccoli? Do you like asparagus? Do you like this? Do you like that? Do you like this? And you can kind of go through and then start asking, do you like where you live? And you're like, yes. And it's like, maybe you don't, or something, right? But you can get to the harder questions once you've kind of primed the response.
It's like muscle testing.
Yeah.
Yeah, muscle testing, and also, I know a lot of people in human design also do muscle testing. So
Leaning forwards or back for like sort of.
yeah, you can absolutely
Sounds
muscle
totally
test.
good.
Yeah, sounds, muscles, leaning, any sorts of physical things.
It's just
Yeah.
gauging like a reflex response, and it could even be saying yes or no, but just with the saying it as quick as possible.
Sure.
No?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
for
yeah,
muscle
probably, and
testing.
especially for manifesting generators, because they have a direct connection. I mean, similar to what Carl Jung did when he developed the association test, where he would just say, "What do you think of when you hear this word?" And he would just say another word, and it's like mother, father, this, that, And he didn't actually look for what word they said. He looked for when they paused, because when somebody paused and couldn't say a word, that was a real tender trigger for them. there was something there he needed to work through. So it was less important what they said and more about they could naturally flow, and then suddenly they get stuck on something, and they would say a certain word, they would suddenly tap into some trauma or some complex. Any comments on generators, Mike? Any advice you give generators in your readings, or any?
Generators in general?
Yeah, for generators trying to launch a business. No. I want to hear what Mike has to say about it. Because we have to do things. We're here to build. I mean, we can't just not use our energy.
And to say my business already exists and I am responding to my client's evolution, so it's not
Right, and I mean,
that's what I'm like.
well, and also it's like even just how do you build a business is like when the clients are knocking down your door and you just can't keep up with them, like you naturally, it takes it to the next level. It's just hard to like, yeah, I mean, there's all different stages of business. There's ideas for a business, or there's like real businesses that are already having clients, and there's a question of, and there's all sorts of.
Why don't we use
Business in
Olivia as an
general.
example? Because she's a generator who's building a business.
Well, okay, well, the two things I'm working on, I was thinking, one thing, I'm writing a book, but it wasn't my idea to write the book, because other people kept telling me that I should write a book, and then eventually I felt like the book was already like writing itself, so I felt like I should write it down. And then I am enjoying it, and then the other business is also out of like this like demand and kind of other people's ideas, people telling me I should do this thing.
Well,
And
and
I want to do it.
but you also just
Response.
like paint nonstop, right? And that's, I mean, that is a great example of a generator. If you build it, they will come. Like you paint, you're not marketing nonstop. You're not, you're not.
I have
announcing
like
the
mental breakdowns
paintings.
with marketing.
Yeah, you're just kind of painting it, and then people. You're not going around saying, "Hey, I'm a painter. You should buy my piece." It's like people just say, like, "Oh, you paint? Oh, can I see your work? Oh, okay." I mean, it's really about. It's about building, and if you're building something, then you're doing the right thing. The difficulty is when the generator is not building. Like at Techstars, these people were not building; they were fundraising for their vision and their business plan, and that's a very initiating kind of thing to do. If they're saying we need $200,000 and then we need another $1 million by this time, and that gives us this to this, and we're going to hire these people, and we're going to do this, and that is in the world of the manifestor. And it's not that they couldn't do it; it's that because most of them were generators, and again, Techstars doesn't know human design; they just learned what works. 90% of Techstars businesses succeed, as defined by still being in business in the present day or having exited, having sold. And so it's basically inverse from around, only 10% succeed otherwise of startups. And so 90% of Techstars businesses succeed. Why? Because they have a tried and true methodology of customer development, which is telling everyone you're in here in spite of your ideas, not because of them, and you're not going to work on your idea. Your way to do customer development, which is you're going to interview people, you're going to observe, you're going to discover what it is you're making and what problems you're solving. Instead of saying, but again, it's not the manifestor way. Like a manifestor would probably be able, I bet manifestors made Techstars, you know what I mean? Like they didn't do customer development for that. They just said, this is what we're going to do now. So manifestors can kind of go in with the plan and execute the plan and suffer the consequences. And usually it'll work, and sometimes it doesn't. But either way, they're not iterating day in, day out, I mean, some of these companies were doing 90, 100 interviews. I mean, this is an iterative process of a drudge of every single day, just grinding away in a sort of a brute force way. This is not the manifestor way. But the generators who really responded to it and were into it were very successful doing that because they were building every day. They thought that they were building their dream, their vision, and then they went into this program, and what they ended up building was expertise in what a particular customer segment is looking for. And by the end of it, they could tell you every last thing about these people because they'd interviewed 90 of them. But that's not the manifestor way. The manifestor way is I'm just going to make the plan and execute on the plan, and then if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll suffer the consequences.
I also realized.
What is it?
I didn't get to spell.
Oh, okay, yeah, do it.
Okay, well, unexpectedly, that did kind of dovetail into what I've just been hung up on something that C said kind of at the beginning of what you were saying. You felt like manifestors were alone in terms of the what you said and the what
Like, where does the what come from?
Where does the what come from? So I was like hanging out there for a second on that what, and I just kind of came to these axioms pretty intuitively, but it's just like the manifestor looks at the world and despairs because what they want isn't there. They have to do it.
Oh.
The projector looks at the world and despairs because what they want is in the world, but it's not in the right place. The reflector looks at the world and despairs because what they want is in the world, but no one notices, and they don't notice, and they don't know. There's no awareness. It's there, but it's hidden. Nobody knows. And the generator knows that everything is in the world. Everything is there. It's all there. And the generator may not know what they want, and they certainly don't know what the move is, but there's no faith about whether it's out there or not. I mean, there's no lack of faith about whether it's out there or
They
not.
know
There's no
it's out
question of faith about whether it's out there or not. Manifestor needs to knows that they need to make it happen. Projector knows that it's there and just has to position it right. Reflector knows that it's there, but there's a lack of faith about whether that does anyone any good, because who's there to identify it, you know?
And that ties in really well to the manifestor being here to impact. They impact creating something new. The projector being here to organize or orchestrate or position, as you're saying.
Arrange,
The reflector is all about awareness, because they basically are, and that is the name of the game for the reflector in that way. And then the generator is here to work, and
They're in it. They
They just-
are it in a weird way.
yeah, but
They
they
are
just,
what they want, unlike
Oh,
the other types in a weird way.
but the generator often doesn't know. I mean, the generator can be wasting a lot of time in unfruitful ways because they're not actually building anything, because they're waiting to start building something when they can finally initiate once and for all. But they can't ever, you know? So it's kind of like, after I initiate, I'll start building. And it's like, well, you're not going to initiate, so just build now. Build every day. Like, paint your painting. Like, don't wait until, you initiate a painting studio. Like, you just paint. The studio will form around the act of painting. Start writing your book now. Don't worry about getting an agent and worry about all the things that have to happen, because as you incrementally build, those micro satisfactions continue. They propel you on, and otherwise the frustration leads to a sort of inertia where
That's the gravity you were describing. It just sort of coalesces around you as you keep confirming it through the tiny stuff.
yeah. All right, should we call it?
Yeah,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. That was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.